Hey, what's up, my dear friends? How are ya? I do hope you are doing well with your families. I am. I'm just a little bit busy with my personal life, but I'm sitting down here just like everybody else, watching what's going on in Nigeria, West Africa, and Sahel region, and in Niger, particularly. And I have these things to say. Is the West not ashamed of themselves? Do they not have a little bit of moral authority? How long do they plan to exploit African continent to the detriment of African people? The West has been economically dependent on African continent enormous wealth in mineral resources from the beginning of the world. They relied on African human capital and workforce to develop their continent, starting from the transatlantic slave trade to the modern day brain drain, aka the transatlantic slave trade in the modern day. The West cannot survive without African wealth, and they know it. Their greedy, bloody exploitation of the continent has left African people impoverished. So the African imperialism and colonization continues up to the 21st century. How do they do it? They brought their democracy, their tool to manipulate and impose their own choice of leaders on African continents. Their democracy is nothing about Africa. So, because what happened in Nigeria, the bloody civilian coup plotted by Bola Ahmed Tinubu that killed 95 Nigerians across the country on the polls trying to elect their leader was okay for United States in their hypocrisy and double standard. So the democracy is simply for them to pick their puppets, their own choice of leaders on Africa, so they can have their fingers on the mineral resources. Everything from lithium, from uranium, cobalt, everything. So, these are people that are not even trying to pay their fair share of bill. They just want to loot Africa to obtain these minerals completely free of charge by planting chaos, crisis, terrorism in African nations. They impose rebel groups to rise up against government to destabilize African countries while they are looting our mineral resources free of charge. Now, this is a crime against humanity. I'm going to make a full video about this because we Africans, both in the motherland and diaspora, have to rise up to stop this. Enough is about enough. I found this video and I think it's a very quite informative and insightful and educational to why the West is doing what they are doing. I am so proud of Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Niger for kicking out France out of their countries. It's about time. Thank you so much, my dear people, for watching.
And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished. because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. Okay? And that is a big price to pay. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. Okay, so the job of many Western academics is to convince Africans they have to keep doing what they're doing. Okay, and to show them it's your fault that you're poor. It's not our fault. It's your fault that you're poor. You know, so this is what we do in academic institutions. We know the basic forces that have caused this underdevelopment. We know it's colonization. We cannot afford to allow Africa to industrialize and start producing manufactures. Okay, so we will do everything to stop that. And I'm going to show you how we actually block that. We had East Asian rapid industrialization processes. So in the earlier period, we had Japan and Korea and Taiwan. Okay, rapid growth, sucking in raw materials from Africa, driving up the prices. And after those countries finished industrialization, then sub-Saharan African growth rate again fell. Sub-Saharan Africa is condemned to this role, just the supplier of raw materials, not a manufacturer. The currencies are collapsing of these countries, and many of them are sub-Saharan African countries. After colonization ended, we needed new structures to keep these countries where they were. Okay? And the first of those is aid. Okay? We give them aid. Aid for what? Actually, we give them aid to keep repressive regimes in power. That's all. All the hypocrisy about transparency and democracy and bullshit like that, it's all bullshit. But it would go to country after country offering loans. And if the president did not accept the loan, they were killed. It's just economics. It's economic warfare. The rich declare war on the poor. It happens everywhere. It happens in a country. The rich control the government. Of course they do. You really believe you have democracy? Come on. You know, I mean, grow up. Who has all the subsidies and income support? US, Europe. The largest budgets in the world for supporting their farmers are Europe and US. You see, we're keeping them dependent. We're keeping them on a string. This next round of the WTO is designed to block that. To block anyone else getting on top of the ladder.